students lead us in the pledge. So when I say it's okay, will you all start the pledge? All you students, okay? Join us, and students. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Spanish translation, Dr. Sarvis?
Yes, we have Vivian Rodriguez with us tonight. Vivian?
Sí, muy buenas noches y bienvenidos de parte de la Junta Directiva del Distrito Escolar de Santa Bárbara. Si hay alguien que necesite la ayuda de un intérprete, por favor levante la mano para darle un audífono. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. We have headsets for the hearing impaired if they're needed. Introductions, proclamations, presentations, or recognitions. Dr. Sarvis.
Mr. Herron, Board, I'm very pleased this evening that we have students with us who are high-achieving students with exceptional scores on this last spring's California Standards Tests. The California Standards Tests, referred to as CSTs, are a major component of the California State's standardized testing and reporting system. The tests were developed by state educators and local and test developers, not local test developers, although some of our own people were involved, but they are specifically designed to measure California state content standards in English language arts, in mathematics, in science, and in history, social science. They are one way we monitor what students know and are able to do at each grade and in the subjects tested. And we see regular reports that come out on our performance for each of our schools in the Adequate Yearly Progress Report through No Child Left Behind, and the API, the Academic Performance Index that the state assigns to each school. Well, we are particularly proud of these students. The results from last spring are in, and I'm pleased to introduce the students who took the test last spring and received the highest score either at their school or the highest score district-wide. Students who had the highest score when they took the test in second grade last year, now in third grade, from Harding School, we had Asher Semenson. Asher? And Asher Semenson is not here. From Washington School, Brian Schott. Brian, would you come right up here? In third grade, we had a number of ties for highest score. In third grade from Cleveland School, Antonia Alonso. And, did you see movement there? No, it was just adults moving. And from Roosevelt School, Claudia Brewer. Third grade last year from McKinley School, Zuricide Catalan Pineda. For those students who are not with us tonight, we will get their awards to the school principal. Third grade from Adams School, Edan Gernand. Is that Aiden? Is that in fact Aiden? Yes, it is. Thank you. Back to school. And third grade from Roosevelt School, Olivia Harris. Third grade from Washington School, Diego Perez. Diego. And third grade from Cleveland School, Jennifer Quito Alvarez. We have even more third graders. Third grade from Monroe School, Tiana Ringer. And third grade from Open Alternative School, now at Franklin School, Rosalia Rodriguez. Last year's fourth grade students from Franklin School, Sienna Gonzalez. And also from last year's fourth grade, Harding School, Anthony Luna Valles. Fourth grade from Washington School, Catherine Spradley. And from Adams School, Simon Parker. From McKinley School, Eric Rosales. And from Washington School, Layla Stottenborough. From fourth grade again, from Franklin School, Meredith Velasquez. Did you take 5 of them? And fifth grade last year from Washington School, Mason Doctorman. Fifth grade from Santa Barbara Community Academy, Enrique Montejo Carmona. And fifth grade from Monroe School, Rafael Saavedra. And sixth grade from last year from Santa Barbara Community Academy, now at La Cumbre Junior High School, Sebastian Elizondo. Students, I'm going to have you take one step forward, and then we're going to have other students stand behind you. You ready? Go. Good. Thank you. Very good. Well, let's go on to seventh grade, because from last year's seventh grade class, we had a number of students, again, a number of tie scores, from Santa Barbara Junior High, Hannah Atrim. And from Goleta Valley Junior High, Carolyn Gay. From, again, seventh grade, La Colina Junior High, Quinn Hensley. Girls, move right on down there so we can get more in. Great. And from Santa Barbara Junior High, Sati Smith. From seventh grade from La Cumbre Junior High, Lauren Sousa. And from last year's eighth grade class from La Colina Junior High, now at Dos Pueblos High School, Vincent Chen. Also from eighth grade from La Cumbre Junior High, now at Santa Barbara High School, Dolan Ingraham. From La Colina Junior High, now at Dos Pueblos High School, Robert Sumner. And from Goleta Valley Junior High, now at Dos Pueblos High School, Yijin Wang. From last year's ninth grade scorers. Good. Stay right there for the picture. Smile. Good. Parents, don't be shy about pictures. Just stand right up there in front of everyone. We're all parents. Ninth grade. From Dos Pueblos High School, Eugene Cho. And last year's 9th graders from Alta Vista, now at Santa Barbara High School, Taylor Randall. Tenth grade from Dos Pueblos High, Nicholas De Harris. And from 10th grade, Dos Pueblos High School, V. Luan Huyen. And from 10th grade, Dos Pueblos High School, Laura Voyen. And 2 11th graders to add to the mix here from last year, now seniors. From Dos Pueblos High School, Noah Connolly. And from last year's 11th grade scorers, San Marcos High School, Eli Harris. Well, students, congratulations. Your scores were all remarkable. They were incredibly high. Oh, did I?
Another page.
Just a minute. Rewind. Quick rewind. We have 2 more on the next page. Thank you. From San Marcos High School, 11th grade scorer, Johnny Manzo. And finally, 11th grade from Santa Barbara High School, Lauren Rouse. Lauren, I promised I wouldn't embarrass you, so I saved you till last. There we go. Students, as I was saying, do we have them all?
I think so.
Good. Your scores were just incredible. To see so many of you achieve the highest score possible was just amazing, and in so many areas. Congratulations to you. You make us all proud. Mr. Heron, I'm sure you have comments.
Yes, absolutely wonderful. Looking at the smiles on your faces and the hard work you've put in, the entire board congratulates you and wishes you all the best this year and in your future. I'm sure you can do your very, very best. Thank you very much. You can also see yourself on TV Saturday night at 5 o'clock on Channel 18.
There we go. Students, we want to catch all of your pictures together in the courtyard here. Barbara, there's Barbara. Did you see the one holding up the camera there? And all of your parents are going to follow her. So we can get a picture of all of you right there in the courtyard.
Speaking of parents and teachers and principals, you all share in this. And if it wasn't for you, this wouldn't be happening. I know they're great children, but great teachers and great principals and great staffs also make it happen. So thank you very much.
Students, let's thank our parents, huh? We also have a number of administrators and I see teachers here as well. And I believe Ms. Parker wanted to say something.
I just wanted to chime in on that as well because and the parents that brought them here tonight and it's just a pleasure. This is always a really fun night. So thank you for coming.
All right. Thank you, students. Congratulations to you. Lauren. Right out to the board. Sure. The two boys. Johnny and Eli, right? Right. Okay.
Hello, David. No. I can't say. I mean, we hopefully. Okay, we'll continue with the meeting. Any further introductions, proclamations, presentations, or recognitions?
Yes, we do, Mr. Herron. I wasn't able to spot our student Elizabeth Gonzalez from Santa Barbara High School. Elizabeth, are you with us? Oh, good. Excellent. We have a student report tonight from Santa Barbara High School. Elizabeth Gonzalez, and will you introduce your friend,
Okay, hello.
fellow student?
This is Valeria Garcia, and she's also part of our ASB class. And
One second,
Yeah, let's just wait, hon.
please.
Okay.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gonzalez, and I'm the Commissioner for Human Relations in our ASB class. And this is...
Hi, I'm Valeria Garcia. I'm ASB Vice President for Santa Barbara High School, and we just have a few updates, to let you know what we've been doing at school and what we're planning on doing as ASB.
Okay, so first of all, this year we started out with a quad grub, which actually we brought food to our school from different places like The Habit, El Sitio, and Blenders, and we just sold it to our fellow peers, and we actually made a lot of profit off that, and that also made our school happy. So that was good.
We also, right after the quad grub, on every Wednesday, as you know, Santa Barbara High School has late start, where everyone starts first period at 9. Well, what we did is we had something called Senior Sunrise. This was the first time we've ever done this, and we invited all seniors to come at 8 o'clock in the morning. We gave all seniors a free senior shirt and a free breakfast. So it was a great time to just get to know other people in our class and, spend a great time on campus.
And also, we already had our homecoming dance, which was October 2nd. The attendance was great, like almost 1,000 people went. It was a blast, the DJ was good, and that was really fun.
Right now, we're actually, we're having a Spirit Week. We're trying to pump up the excitement for our football game against San Marcos, which is this Friday at 6 at Santa Barbara High School. We're doing a music-themed week, so every day is a different type of music. Yesterday was rock and roll, today was techno, tomorrow's country, etc. And we're leading up to this is we have a pep rally on Friday, again, to pump up the excitement for our football game against our crosstown rivals.
And also after that football game, we're gonna have a dollar dance, and we're just inviting everyone to come. It's gonna be a little dance in the hallway. It's only gonna be $1, so. And I think we also invited San Marcos people to come, and we're not sure if they're actually gonna be attending it, but we also tried opening it up to our sister schools. And also, coming up, we have a Club Rush on October 21st. And that's just kind of a fundraiser as well as like advertisement for our clubs that we have at school, because we do have like around 40 maybe. And yeah, that should be interesting. A lot of clubs out there, so.
Right. And last but not least, we started having our legislative meetings this month on October. We have it the first Thursday of every month. During lunch, we provide community service hours and free food for all students who attend. It's open to any students. And in these meetings, we just discuss what's going on in our school, how we can make it better. And it just opens up, students, it just lets students' voices be heard. And they are able to have an input in what's going on in our school. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I heard something about a fright night. What's a fright night? Fright night walk?
Fright night. Oh, it's not through ASB. That's why we don't know a lot about it. But it's through Music of the Night, which is a student-run program. Students in our theater department direct it, and they hold auditions. It's all student-run. They usually do a fright night, fright walk, and they dress up, and it's just a fun way to get students to come, and not just students from our school, but students from our community, to come and have a good, safe time for Halloween.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? No. Thank you very much. Go Dons. You've got 2 alumni up here, I think, so,
And a parent.
okay.
Well, many of us will be at the football game, but as you can imagine, we'll have to root for both teams. And I believe even the
Is that
board
right, Annette?
members
Is-
do that, don't they?
Once a Don, always a Don.
Well, I'm wearing olive, red, blue, and gold. Well, good. Shall I go on with the superintendent's
Yes.
report? Well, it does not appear that the governor has yet signed the state budget. But we do expect a new budget. It's now more than 100 days late, and we're all anxious to know more about the details. So we will be attending school services study sessions over the next 2 days to learn more about the new state budget, and we'll give the board a full report at our next board meeting. So I'll get that on my list here. After-school programs. Students who participate in quality after-school programs reap a host of benefits in a number of interrelated areas such as academic, social-emotional, prevention, and health and wellness. Research has proven that balancing the academic support with a variety of structured, engaging, and enjoyable extracurricular activities improves academic student performance. The public is invited to celebrate the district's after-school programs at Lights On After School, Movin' and Groovin', on Thursday, October 21st, from 5 o'clock to 7 p.m. in Franklin Elementary School's auditorium. There will be student performances as well as information on the curriculum, the partner agencies, and organizations. Event organizers will be serving dinner for just $5 a plate. So that's Thursday, October 21st, Lights On After School. The upcoming November ballot, we have a board election coming up on the November ballot. The board candidates for our districts that will appear on the November ballot are Kate Parker, Monique Limon, Dean Nevins, and Lauren Mason. And I see Lauren Mason here in the audience. Always afraid I'll overlook someone here. And of course, Kate Parker is here on the dais. Also on the ballot are measures Q and R regarding school facilities bonds. The board put the bond measures on the ballot because of the need to keep our 1.8 million square feet of space in facilities in good repair. If passed, bond funds will help to accomplish a number of improvements, such as upgrading classrooms, modernizing facilities, using energy-saving methods, improving our security systems and emergency communication systems, providing modern classroom technology and computer and or wireless connections to all of our schools. And this is a partial list. There is much more information available on our website, and you can see the website on the screen. Chris. We will be posting a slide presentation on our website showing the current state of some of our facilities, as we believe that is important information for the public. Finally, the board brief. My office regularly issues a report to the board called the Board Brief. It's a collection of articles and information items on school and district matters. A copy of the October 1st board brief is on display in the reception area. The last board brief includes an item, just one item I'd like to call your attention to. There was a memo on 2010, 2011 categorical program, local education area plan, and an outline of the major focus areas of the LEA plan. And board will be discussing this in the future, so I wanted to make sure everyone knew that it was in the board brief, along with a number of other items. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarvis. The board brief is also on the district website, and it's on the screen. So if you want to see any of the board briefs over the past several meetings or several months, they are available. C2, board comments and correspondence. Mrs. Deacon?
In a small effort to put policy into practice, I'd like to present tonight these Going Green cups to those of us up here in the dais so that we're no longer using plastic bottles or disposable water cups. I see Mr. Smith taking active advantage of that. Thank you. And these were designed with the very capable help of Barbara Kiani and produced by the Dawn's Net Cafe. And so I just like to thank them for that and present them to everyone up here so we can use them. And everyone's name is on the bottom.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Very good, thank you.
Mrs. Parker?
Well, I want to give a special thank you then to Mrs. Deacon because I know that this is a personal gift for us. So thank you very, very much. Just a few things from the past couple of weeks that I wanted to share out about. One was the first Elementary Parent Advisory Committee and Secondary Parent Advisory Committee joint meeting this time for the year was held about a week ago. And it was great, really good attendance. And I think we need to narrow down the agenda a little bit. We talked a lot about school district student achievement. That was really the main focus of this first meeting. But it's terrific to have so much parent involvement and representation from so many schools as they communicate back and forth with us about district and site issues. I know that Annette and Mrs. Cordero and I were waiting for Superman this past week, and Mr. Heron, you had already seen it.
I've already been there.
Yeah, and Mrs. Deacon was out of town, but I know she'll be seeing it soon. And so many staff were there, and so many principals and administrators. It was wonderful for the Holden Foundation to put that on, and they were giving shout-outs particularly to Sarah Miller McCune for helping make that happen. It was a really interesting movie. I highly recommend it. So many members of the audience here today were there also, and a great starting point for discussion. So I know that we will be continuing on with that. And just finally last night, I want to give a special kudos to Mrs. Cordero. We were at a candlelight vigil that was very moving and very sad as we were reflecting on the number of youth recently across the nation who have lost their lives through bullying, harassment, particularly around lesbian, gay, bisexual issues. And Mrs. Cordero was one of the speakers. And really, I thought you did a wonderful job, so thank you.
Mrs. Cordero?
Well, I was just going to mention both the vigil last night and the movie. So since that has already been mentioned, I just want to reiterate that the movie was presented as a sort of a beginning point for a series of community dialogues that should be taking place over the next several months. And so I'm hopeful that many members of our community will participate in those discussions, as I hope that many members of our district will as well. And I look forward to pursuing those discussions further, because the movie itself, Waiting for Superman, certainly was a thought-provoking documentary and really raised some serious questions and issues for further discussion. So I'm thrilled that our community has taken that on as a discussion topic. And also last night, we were commemorating the lost lives of several young people who have taken their own lives because of the bullying and harassment that they've received. And so I just wanted to point out that later on our agenda, we have the anti-bullying activities that from our secondary schools, what our schools are currently doing, and that'll be an opportunity for us to also discuss any further suggestions that we might have for how we can add to our anti-bullying efforts. So,
Thank you. At the last meeting, we had the recognition that we had a high school science teacher who wins the Genius Grant. We all know him as Amir Abu Shair. Well, just want to point out that in the Education Week, which is the America's Education newspaper of record for the nation, he's recognized in there as a genius. So he's getting a lot of PR, and Mrs. Deacon wrote a beautiful article in the Newshawk, which we all appreciate, that we appreciate Amir also very, very much. But it's good to get national attention for our school district and for our instruction that takes place. I was happy to see last week during the rain, walk to school, and I have a feeling the kids enjoyed the rain more than the walk. And when you see pictures of it and you see the various color rain gear. You can tell they were happy to be in the rain gear, and Adams School had a walk bus, I guess you'd call it, and I saw them walking along the street, and I wondered if anybody would show up in the rain, but they sure did. Several of us went to the Adelante ribbon cutting, and it was so wonderful to see the great attendance at that, both from a parent, child, and even from the community, to see how much they are appreciated and how much they appreciate what with the whole process that went through. And then a little bit later, I went to one of their governing council's meetings, and I saw the effort being made at identifying the achievement gap and what needs to be done to make sure that every single child achieves, and the extent they're going to make sure it happens at that school. So it's a perfect example of a charter school that had some hard times, but we have so much hope for them, and we're working very hard to make sure that those hopes and dreams come true for those families, because they believe totally in that school, and they're going to make it happen. Sunday, I went to a barbecue put on by the Trade Art organization. It's a nonprofit that does a great amount of work at our high schools in the career ed construction field. And again, it was attended by so many people in the community. It's good to see that kind of support for our school system. And then I just want to pay particular attention to Jennifer Gibson, teacher at Adams School. She put on the first webinar for the district or for the community on how to use technology in the classroom. And she's going to be putting on these webinars every month. And then anybody who would want further information can go and actually take a class on the topic. So it's nice to see technology being put to use, and the fact that she's training teachers on how to use it in the classroom. So that's it for me. Anything further? Announcement of closed session. On item B1, there was no action taken, but it will be taken up later on the agenda, where we actually will make the motions for action. On item B2, public employee discipline dismissal release, a motion was made by Parker, seconded by Deacon, to accept the resignation of a certificated teacher with accompanying agreed upon terms. The motion passed 4-0 against, 1 absent, Dr. Noel, and every motion tonight will have 1 absent, and that's Dr. Noel. He's not feeling good. And on B3, there was no action taken and no report to give. Public comments.
Yes, we have a number of public comments this evening. Speakers will have 3 minutes. I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining. Kate Smith, followed by Caroline Green and Valeria Garcia, followed by Marcia Eichelberger.
Yeah. Any objection? No. Okay. Mr. Hatyoung?
President Herron, members of the Santa Barbara School District Board of Education. I am running for the Santa Ynez Valley High School District Board of Education to expose school corruption and reform education. I was illegally disqualified from the Santa Barbara School Board ballot in 1998 and 2008. I live 10 minutes away from Roosevelt School. There's a longitudinal and latitudinal line, and it just cuts out this little, see that right there? That's where I ran for the school district in 2000, and right here is where I live, at the old Sunburst on Gibraltar Road. I'm an hour and a half away from Santa Ynez, but if I get elected, I have described my platform. I would support the teachers to charter the district and become a professional learning community. I would bring the parent revolution, partially funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to the district to create student-centered, teacher-directed, and parent-involved schools. At the Candidates Forum, which is online, I stated that I would support the teachers, and when they asked what would I do to reduce costs, I said I would fire Superintendent Paul Turnbull.
Point of order,
Yes.
President Herron, this needs to be about something that's under the jurisdiction of the Santa Barbara School District, so I question what the relevance of talking about her platform for the Santa Ynez.
Okay,
High school
you have
district
to
has.
stop the clock. I'll need to,
Can you answer that question?
of course. I am exposing deep-seated and widespread school and government corruption, and I was illegally disqualified from the school board ballot
You have
in 1998, and so I have given to Dr. Sarvis my request to meet with him. It's about my 8th request, to discuss changing the map.
Okay,
Annette Cordero.
that's enough.
Okay, well,
You
so,
have- you
no,
have
but
one
wait a
mi-
minute.
You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
No, wait a minute. I have
accept-
to answer
I-
her question.
I accept your answer.
Well,
I accept your answer. You have 1 minute.
there are 5 ways to change
You have
the
one-
map.
You have 1 minute.
This is my 12th request. Annette Cordero is on the School District Boundary Line Committee. I have to go to the school board of each district involved to ask them to change the map. I've been to you 5 times, and I have been to the Santa Ynez Valley Board. I was explaining that I'm running for the school board in Santa Ynez because you're corrupt. And the voter registrar is fraudulent. 17,500 voters know I'm in this
You have
district.
20 seconds.
So, if Ms. Parker gets back on the board, we will deal with that corruption and mount a recall. Thank you.
Caroline Green and Valeria Garcia, followed by Marcia Eichelberger.
Okay, absolutely.
Hi, hello, school board members. I'm Caroline Green, a senior at Dos Pueblos High School. I'm an ASB representative on the leadership class over there, so you'll be seeing me a little bit more.
Hi again, I'm Valeria Garcia, ASB Vice President. We're here to talk on behalf of Santa Barbara Youth Council, which we are both part of. Santa Barbara Youth Council is a group of 17 teens from DP, SM, from different high schools in town, and we work as an advisory committee to the Santa Barbara City Council. If they have a question on how teens feel about a certain issue or need to know, other things regarding the youth in town, they come to us. And vice versa, we go to them. We're also we're involved with the Teen Center, which is located on 1235 Chapala Street, which is right now under the jurisdiction of PAL. And right now we're here to just let you know about an event we have coming up.
Yes, so the event is on November 15th, and we're going to hold a teen rights workshop at the Davis Center. We are holding the workshop because we realized a lot of the teens in the community didn't know their rights. It's sort of a confusing age right before they turn 18, so we're holding it on, we have drugs and alcohol, domestic violence, traffic violations, and school rights. So we have a presenter, an adult presenter, presenting with a kid, a student, and they're going to be saying what the rights are, and the presentation is just going to include a lot of information, a lot of discussion, and at the end of the workshop, we're going to have a nice dinner and discussion, so it'll be really fun. And let's see, so also students, we want to include that They'll be receiving community service for attending the event. It starts at 5:30 on the 15th, and that's about it for the event.
Right. So thank you so much for talking to us. And we just, if you have any questions about the Teen Center or about anything like that, please feel free. We're also going to try to come to almost every meeting just to let you know what's going on with the Youth Council. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a lot of work.
Thank you, Ms. Green and Ms. Garcia. Marcia Eichelberger?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 2 years ago this week, 5 parents of special education students stood up and asked for your help because the special ed department, which had been in disarray for a decade, was failing their children, and multiple attempts at resolving their issues had gone ignored. That request and the many similar ones that followed resulted in the FCMAT report and subsequently a complete overhaul of the special education in Santa Barbara school districts. It also resulted in the formation of the Special Ed Advisory Council, or SEEK. This is the important part. 1 year ago today, Dr. Carrie Mills joined the districts, and she now serves as our Executive Director of Special Education. I'm here tonight on behalf of the SEEK and the students whom we love to acknowledge the first anniversary of Dr. Mills' hiring. We are all acutely aware of the importance of consistency in leadership because otherwise policies and procedures change as the wind blows. It is precisely this lack of consistency in leadership and vision that allowed our special ed department to become so dysfunctional. And if nothing else, it's good to celebrate the fact that someone has actually stayed this long and still remains committed to the long, unglamorous task of rebuilding the department from the ground up. Tonight, we acknowledge Dr. Mills and her staff for working so incredibly hard to begin building the infrastructure our special ed department needs in order to provide quality programs and services for our most vulnerable children. We express our appreciation for her willingness to work respectfully and collaboratively with parents, families, and interested community members, and to lead by example in this regard. We thank Dr. Mills for understanding the importance of ongoing parent and community participation and for continuing to involve all constituents serving on the subcommittees of the stakeholder group so that the collaborative work of finding solutions, providing evidence-based and quality programming, and maintaining open and respectful communication continues. Tonight, we urge the board and administration to commit your full support and available resources to assist Dr. Mills in locating and hiring high-quality administrative support personnel so she and her staff may continue to move forward with the priorities delineated in the Special Ed Action Plan. Tonight, we commend Dr. Mills for her efforts over this last year because for the first time in a decade, parents can pick up the phone and talk with someone in the department, and that phone call doesn't end in frustration. Tonight, we want you, the board and administration, to know that we are grateful for Dr. Mills' express commitment to stay and continue to work, moving her department forward in a positive fashion. To be sure, there are still problems to be resolved and relationships to be restored. It's only been a year after all, but still, it's been a year, one entire year. And this year, it's an anniversary we are delighted to celebrate. So, Dr. Mills, if you would come forward.
Not diamond?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Mills.
Thank you.
Is that?
That concludes public comment.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Dr. Sarvis. He has a special announcement.
Well, Board, we'd like to return to item C1. The change in board meeting times to 6:30 rather than 7 o'clock caused some problems, and our students not being here at the time that we acknowledged other students. So students and your families, would you please come in?
Come right to the front row if you want.
Here you go. We reserved these seats just for you. They were told 7 o'clock. I'm sorry that happened. Well, Mr. Herron, board members, we have a number of students who were high-scoring students. In fact, the highest scoring students on the California Standards Test, called the CSTs, as part of the STAR Standardized Testing and Reporting System, which is the state test that we all look at that dictates our progress and our accountability measures for the district, both for the state and for the federal government through No Child Left Behind, adequate yearly progress. These students had outstanding scores. Their scores were either the highest scores at the school or the highest score district-wide at the grade level. So as you can imagine, this is difficult. In fact, it's amazing when you see students with scores of 600 and the only possible score is 600, and you see another score that's very close to that in another subject area. I mean, these are really the students who are at the top. Students, I'd like you to come forward and I'll call your names. From second grade testing this last year, we had from Harding School, Asher Semonson. Asher? There we go. And from third grade testing last year, Roosevelt School, Claudia Brewer. Also third grade, we had a number of ties in third grade. From third grade last year, Roosevelt School, Olivia Harris. And last year's fourth grade students, now fifth grade, from Harding School, Anthony Luna Velez. And finally, sixth grade student last year from Santa Barbara Community Academy, now at La Cumbre Junior High, Sebastian Elizondo. Congratulations, students. You make us very proud of your accomplishment. And Mr. Herron, I believe you may have some comments as well.
Yes, it's fantastic to see you. Fantastic to honor you. You can see yourselves on TV Saturday night at 5 o'clock, Channel 18. Tell your parents. And we want to thank the parents who are here tonight and their teachers and principals who play a vital role in this. Parents, teachers, principals, administrative staff, and our children. So congratulations for a fantastic job. We appreciate it. Appreciate you very much.
Congratulations. Students, we want to make sure we get your picture. Have we already taken their picture in the courtyard? Okay, let's head right out the door to the courtyard, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you, parents. Thank you for reconsideration. Oh, certainly.
C5, acceptance of donations.
I will move to approve with gratitude.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, 4-0, 1 absent. Consent calendar. You'll notice that there's an addition to D5. There's addition to D11, slight modifications.
And the addition to D5 is a revision, and that's available on the side table as well. The addition to D11 is the actual MOU, and that's available on the side table as well.
Any comments on any of them? I would like to mention, and an answer is not really necessary, but to me it just points out something that's mind-boggling to me. On D6 and D7, all the multitude of paper and work for $393 on one and $437 on the other, we could have passed the hat and raised that. But it just strikes me as absurd that all that has to be done. I almost wonder if it's worth the effort, even the few minutes I'm talking right now. I don't know why we do it, to be honest with you. There must be a bigger reason that we do it, but it just, and especially if we have more reporting to do on how we spend $437, it just, I can't believe it.
I have to say, I thought it was a typo at first until I went
I
back
did
and
too.
read on each of them, and then I thought, no, it really is just $300 and $400. Mr. Heron, I'd like to pull D1. There's just a correction on the minutes. We can do it now or later.
Do it now.
This is a minor detail, but under board comments, I actually visited the back-to-school nights, not the open house. This is under C2, board comments and correspondence at the 3 high schools. So it was back-to-school night, not open house. But the more important thing, I think, is on F4 on these minutes. It actually cites all 3 high schools that we discussed the WASC reports, but in fact we did not discuss Santa Barbara Highs. We're going to talk about them tonight, so that might be a correction we'd like to make. But I will go ahead and move to approve
Okay, with those corrections.
D1.
Second?
Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 4-0 with 1 absent. We have a public hearing at 7:30, so let's see if we can take E1. And Meg Jate is,
Yes, this is the first reading, and we hope acceptance on the board policy and administrative regulation on travel expense. We've been working hard to make sure that this policy is in order and that we have control over this process. Meg Jate is our Director of Fiscal Services.
Good evening. Basically, what we started doing was looking at our accounting procedures for reimbursement and travel for our staff and our requests to be absent forms. And we decided that we needed some tougher guidelines. But once we did that, we knew that we needed to get the board policies in line with those our procedures for accounting. So through a lot of comparison with other districts that have travel policies, we came up with this one with a lot of input from Cabinet and from our internal auditor. And the biggest difference is the amount that comes to the board for approval, and that we went from 500 to 1,200. And I'm speaking mostly of the reg, not the board policy, so I apologize for that. I was using the wrong term. So we're talking about the administrative regulation, and I'm on page 1 of 5. And basically what we decided to do was to raise that because what we found out were people were not putting in the conference amount. They were pulling the conference amount and just putting the travel in there. And we didn't think that was a good representation of how much the actual cost was. So we upped it, so now we're telling people to include the travel and the conferences in there, which range from anywhere from $400 to $700 to go to some of these places. So that's the major change in this. And it brings a little less to you people, to the board for approval, because when we go to conferences, say at the county education office, they're $100, or even if they're over $500, you won't be seeing those anymore, they'll be less. So it cuts down on the amount of board approvals.
the way I read this, if it's out of state, we still see it.
Absolutely.
The dollar amount's not affected on that.
No.
I had some questions, in one place it's 30 working days, another place is 20 days, another place is 45 days.
Right, and we,
Why working days instead of just, why the difference?
okay, well, We corrected those, and those are on the side panel. We struck them out, and we revised them. So maybe we should get those.
We don't have them.
Oh, okay. Well, we did, the 45 days was, it takes, the problem that we see in accounting, and other people in other parts of the district see it a little differently, is it takes us a while. We need to capture the early bird specials on the conferences. We need to book airfare possibly. We need to book hotels. And to get the cheapest rates and to get the hotels where we want to put our people so they don't have to take cabs and shuttles and cost money, we try to get, if we can get it early, we can capture the deals. And that's what we're trying to tell people is 30 days, you know, at the least. But then all of a sudden somebody will come up and say, oh my gosh, this is a great conference, and it's 3 days from now. We have to be flexible and let everyone go to the trainings. So we changed it from it's 30 working days on the front, 20 days if it's not out of state or if it needs any kind of travel plans like airfare and things. And then on the second page where it says 45 days, we struck that out. And do you have any more? Oh, that's right. That's what, I'm sorry. Turn this on.
Well, Barbara's getting copies. Yeah.
Right, that's the only two changes.
Let's carefully review the changes, and board will get copies of that to you right now.
Okay, so on the first page, it's 30 work, it's on the, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6th paragraph. Right, it used to say board approval must be prior to any reservations being made. And we struck that out so that we could start the process and capture the early bird, because sometimes, as I said, we only have a few weeks, and if we just missed a board meeting, we have to wait 2 weeks, we've missed the early bird specials or a decent flight. And then, oh, and we did separate them out. That's correct. So those two paragraphs, one is over 1,200 and one is under 1,200, and there's slightly different rules for that. Over 1,200 and out of state must come to the board. Anything under 1,200, we can get it 20 days prior to travel. The second,
And again, maybe I missed it, you probably said it. Why is it working days in one case and 20, why the working days? Why not, that's 6 weeks, why not make it 40 or 45 days?
I think that was an oversight, the working, you mean like that's five working days.
That's 6 weeks.
Yes, that's true. That should be 30 days, not working days. We can strike the working. Thank you, Mr. Henry. So on the next correction is on the second page. And that's for conference registration. And what we changed here is the minimum of 45 days prior to travel, because it's difficult to do that. Because not all conferences need other types of travel arrangements such as air and hotels. Maybe we're just driving up to Santa Maria. So as soon as what we want them to do is turn in their absence, their request to be absent for a regular assignment must be submitted as soon as possible to ensure the conference registration, hotels, transportation are secured at the best possible price. That's what we're trying to get out here, that not the last minute travel that costs us so much money. So it's all basically trying to expedite it and make it as inexpensive as possible.
Mrs. Deacon?
Well, now that that's changed, maybe my question isn't relevant anymore, but I was a little concerned that people might request the registration prior to the site approval that came 30 days as opposed to 45. So it couldn't happen that someone would request a registration prior to actually getting this other approval. Is that correct?
The other approval to be absent?
Correct.
Yes. In theory, in a perfect world, you should say, I'm going to be absent, I'm requesting to be absent. I fill out a form that says, this is how much it's going to cost me. If it's over $1,200, we bring it to the board. If it's not, we start the process of registering them, and that's all done with the purchasing department.
But if it's out of state,
Barbara, do you have
If it's out of
copies?
state, it comes to you.
they need board approval before they
Can request
can request anything else.
the
That's
registration.
correct.
And you crossed off board approval, but I'm not sure where you crossed it off, if you put it back in.
Yes, that's all it was. It was redundant.
Can you
I
go back?
believe the paragraph underneath speaks directly to it. Let's see. Where is it? All travel greater than 1,200 out of state must be approved by the Board of Education.
Where, I'm sorry.
Right there.
And it says prior to making any reservations or travel arrangements, or including conference registration.
Yeah, that's the dilemma I was
Is
addressing.
that all reasonable?
Well,
I mean,
Well, it sounds like you could request, you could get the registration process going prior to the approval, the way it's written now. Prior to the request to be absent.
Well, the registration would be made by the district's purchasing department. Okay.
what is the need that we have to rush this tonight?
We don't need to rush it tonight.
I personally like more time to read the changes.
Yeah.
That, it was hard for me to read the first part, the first section, and now to see all the changes, it's going to take me more time. But that's just me.
Well, I agree. I know we're only agendized for 10 minutes on this, and we've already reached that limit.
Okay,
If there are other questions that the board has right now, or other things that Meg would like to highlight right now, otherwise, we'll just bring it back for action at the next meeting.
That's fine. I did have one suggestion. Go ahead. Because is all travel necessarily conference travel? I mean, I guess that was a question that came to my mind initially, and I don't anticipate a need to make any major changes, but at the end of that paragraph with the 30 working days and the 20 days, the very last sentence, and this has caught my attention because this is something that I think we know we've all dealt with multiple times, where it says, under an extreme circumstance, travel may be approved by the superintendent due to lack of notification of the conference. For me, I don't know if I want to make it only conferences, that kind of potential exception could be made. So I took a stab at rewording it, and if we're going to bring this back, maybe I'll just tell you now so that that could be part
Can you
of
get it to them? We have a 7:30 public
Okay.
hearing, so.
All right, that's fine. I'll provide it in writing.
And that would be very appropriate. In fact, some of the things we're notified about with very short notice are things like state meetings, because you're now a program improvement district. You need to show up in 2 weeks at a state meeting, something like that. So they're not all conferences.
Mrs. Parker?
And I think I caught a typo or two that I'll see if it's on the new version, and then I will send those in also, and my only request that it come back to us on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have, thank you very much, Mrs. Jate. We're going to jump to E4, public hearing, and I presume the appropriate thing is for me to open a public hearing, correct?
Yes.
I'll open the public hearing. I would like to comment under the public hearing, just so everyone knows, on E4. Okay. Notice of public hearing and approval of resolutions number 2010/11-18 and 2010/11-19 regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for traditional calendar schools of Santa Barbara Elementary School District and the Santa Barbara Secondary District. I did ask a couple questions. In this resolutions, it does talk about public notice, and I have been told that the public notice has been posted at the district office and in each K-6, 7-8, and 9-12 school site. It also says that there's been an invitation to the community, site staff, and parents to participate in the public hearings. And I asked if that's been done, and that the previous public notice at all those locations is the invitation to the community. And in the resolution, it also says that we are to satisfy ourselves and make the recommendation that all of the 9 to 12 grade classes have laboratory science equipment as applicable to the science laboratory courses. And I have been notified that, yes, they are. So those are the comments on public notice that I have. Any other public comments or comments? If not, I'll close the public hearing. And to the board for action. Mrs. Parker?
I'll move that we approve resolution number 2010/11-18 and 2010/11-19 regarding the sufficiency of instructional materials for the traditional calendar schools for the Santa Barbara Elementary School District and Santa Barbara Secondary School District.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 4-0 with 1 absent. Thank you. We'll go back now to E2, acceptance of quarterly reports on Williams uniform complaints for the Santa Barbara Elementary and Santa Barbara Secondary School Districts.
And Marlon Sumter, our Director of Student Services, will give a brief report on this item. We'll see how brief he can be.
Yeah, welcome to your first official announcement.
I'll try to be quick but not stumble over my words. But just briefly to say, that this is a requirement of the California Education Code that we provide a summarized data report to the county superintendent of schools on an annual basis, on a quarterly basis. And also have this presented at regularly scheduled public meetings to the governing board. The report must include the number of complaints by general subject area with the number of resolved and unresolved complaints. Ed Code 35-186 states that a school district shall use the uniform complaint process to help identify and resolve deficiencies that are related to instructional materials, emergency or urgent facilities conditions that pose a threat to the health and safety of pupils or staff, teacher vacancy or misassignment, and complaints related to the California High School Exit Exam, intensive instruction and services for pupils who have not passed any part of that exam. The findings we have is that for the quarter ending September of 2010, the Santa Barbara Elementary and Santa Barbara Secondary School Districts received no complaints. So I think that's good news. We must be doing a good job out there to help meet the needs. And so the recommendation then would be that the board accept the quarterly reports on Williams uniform complaints for the Santa Barbara Elementary and Santa Barbara Secondary School Districts.
Mrs. Deacon?
Brief enough?
Thank you,
Very,
Mr. Sumter.
very good.
Okay.
Just right.
You'll get a better shot at it sometime.
Okay, that's fine.
We'll keep you here longer another time. I will move to approve E2, acceptance of quarterly reports on Williams uniform complaints for the Santa Barbara Elementary and Santa Barbara Secondary School Districts.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 4-0 with 1 absent. E3, approval of board action on student discipline case numbers 10/11-01 and 10-11-04. We'll go with 10-11-01 first. Do we have a motion?
In case number 10/11-01, I move that we uphold the findings and recommendation of the hearing panel with the exception that the expulsion will be for 1 semester with 1 semester of suspended expulsion.
Second.
Discussion?
I just want to clarify that it's 1 semester expulsion followed by 1 semester suspended expulsion.
Yes.
So-
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 4-0 with 1 absent. 10/11-04.
In 10/11-04, I move that we uphold the stipulated agreement.
The stipulated 1 school year expulsion agreement.
Yes.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 4-0 with 1 absent. We'll go to the conference agenda.
Was that Mrs. Deacon who seconded that?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Do you have, I need to put those on here. Excuse me one moment.
Nick or Darrell? Who seconded it?
Deacon.
Susan Deacon.
They were both, yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, conference agenda F1, report on English learners and reclassification cutoff scores for the California Standards Test.
Dr. Davis Hayden is our Director of Research, Evaluation, and Technology. Davis?
Hello, we're waiting for the projector. I think he surprised us. Let me just start out and say that there has been many times that we've been asked about when's a good time to reclassify a student from English learner, thank you, from English learner to reclassified as redesignated English language proficient. And we commonly call that RFEP. So you'll see R-FEP to stand for that. And that's when a student has sufficiently mastered the English language to be able to move out of the English learner category into the normal or the regular English category of fluency. About 4 or so years ago, I looked at the data very closely with Dr. Cynthia White, and we came up with a reclassification on the CSTs as one of the guidelines of 365. And recently, though, we've been asked to relook at that, and so that's what we've done. We've also noticed that the California regulations, I think they're federal, if that's correct, yes, actually asked us to take a look at the English only in our district and define what the average of the English only students are, and use that as the guideline for redesignation for English learners. So I did that recently, and the English only in our district have a, we have 2 of them here. Okay, I gotta get this guy turned on. And 382.90 in the in the secondary district, and 378.39 in the elementary district. So this will vary from year to year, so approximately 380. Okay, so that would be, so 365 actually turned out to be a little bit on the low side, but 380 would be what would be the average for English only. So I did an analysis, and if we go to the next slide here, this took some time to do, as often is the case. This is the, if we used 380, which is a cutoff score of 380, and we redesignated all of the students that had 380 back in 2006-07, this would be what their scores were in 2007-08 in terms of percent proficient or percent, oh, I've got the not still in there. I'm sorry, that not should not be there, percent proficient. That slipped in there. Okay. I'm sorry about, well, I first had it done the other way around, and Dr. White wanted me to change it. So I changed it, but I didn't get the not out of there. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is the percent proficient here for the subsequent years. And you can see that if we use the cutoff score of 380, there's a regression to the mean, which all of these have. And then we go back up after another year of English language instruction, and then it kind of stabilizes. That's a pretty good number. It's close to 90%. So if we use that average for English only, we'd end up with about 90% of the students being proficient on their CSTs. That's really kind of decent. If we go by our 365 that we have been using for 4 years, that also ends up being a fairly decent number at 80% proficient. There is a lot of controversy, though, about using lower numbers, and so that's why I've got all these lower numbers in here. What you see happening here is that there's a little bit of regression, but obviously we're getting closer to the mean. There's hardly any change in this score here, which is a cutoff score of 300. Obviously, it looks like the students are still gaining in English proficiency as they go through our school district, which is good to see. But they only get up to around 45% being proficient after 4 years. If we were to reclassify them at this level, there would be a lot of students who are not proficient in English, and so that would probably be a disservice to those students to reclassify them at too low of a score. So the issue is that should we stay at 365, should we go to the 380, or should we go to a lower number? And that's the data is what we're looking at here. There's another slide on here. This is what we did back in 2006-07. And now this is where the students are in 2009-10. Along the way, 130 students were redesignated to RFEP. And of those students that were redesignated to RFEP, 90% are proficient or advanced proficient, which is exactly what we'd like to see. Of the students that remained English learners, you can see that 68.2 were proficient or advanced and 31.8 were not. We may have been able to redesignate a few more of these over here at some point, and hopefully, if they're still on our system, we will be redesignating, especially these that are 23. Maybe this year they get redesignated. So that's the data. That's what the data says, and I don't have really any solid recommendation. The 365 we have been using seems to work pretty well, and that's about that. Any questions?
Well, I actually have a lot of questions, but I don't know that they're necessarily for you, Dr. Hayden.
That's right.
But I guess that what I will ask you is that this is some sort of recommendation that's going to be coming to us from the state, possibly, to change the...
I think you're going to be hearing from the next presenter some information on positions by different groups in terms of should we be lowering it, should we be raising it, what should we do? I'm sure that Dr. White could speak to it too if she's here tonight. So.
Yes, this was a request from the DLAC organization to take a look at it again, and we had a categorical program monitoring review 4 years ago, and at that time our redesignation criteria was approved by the state. I think that, you know, we relooked at the criteria, and the criteria is to redesignate at the local mean level of proficiency, because really in closing an achievement gap, what you're asking for are the students to come to a native proficiency level. So in terms of recommendation, I feel comfortable with the 365 because it does show flexibility in terms of what could be the redesignation criteria, but we, of course, will take input from the board. Again, this was an approved by the state 4 years ago. It was not looked at again this round of our categorical program monitoring because our district was not monitored for English learners.
Okay. Well, I think that for me, I would say that this is an interesting piece of information, but what I would like to see is a fuller discussion beyond what even we're going to get a DLAC report next, but really a district presentation about the reclassification process. I know that we have a decision guide that is used, but I'd like to hear about how that works in action, and include this part of what happens to students over time if they are reclassified, if they're not reclassified, as part of that. But this is a good first step, but I want to see more.
Mrs. Deegan?
I just have to say, what a difference the word "not" makes.
I'm sorry about that.
I was trying to figure out after 4 years we had 90% not proficient. I'm sorry. Okay, so a lot of my questions now go away.
I'm sorry.
although I have to agree with Mrs. Parker, one of my big questions was, why would the state or the federal government, choose to select this average? I mean, Mrs. White has pretty much indicated it now, but if you're asking it to be the same as your average native English speaker, that to me that doesn't really feel right. The other thing that's helpful here is this piece about the number advanced proficient, and I do think that's definitely a group that we want to look at that probably should be reclassified.
This one here.
Yeah.
They
and
are probably.
That is concerning to me that we've got some students that haven't been appropriately refipped.
They are RFIP. These are probably going to be RFIP this year, I'm imagining. I mean, that's the most likely scenario for those this year.
Okay, okay.
May I make a comment about that?
Yes.
That's one of the criteria, is a CST score. There are other criteria for the reclassification, including the students cannot be failing in any of their core classes. And so a student could reach an advanced proficient level on the CST and fail social studies or science and then not be qualified for redesignation. So there are multiple criteria which you've seen in the English Learner Master Plan Decision Guide. So we are looking really carefully, and redesignation, we're calling them redesignated as fluent English proficient. So it's covering beyond the CST score, and we're saying that they are fluent English proficient in their core classes as well. So we look at
Thank
those
you. And I do remember that failing piece, and I have to say I've also heard some persuasive arguments about if our native English speakers fail a class, that doesn't affect their classification, and I'm not sure that that's a standard. We'll need to talk more about that, but it's always struck me as a little bit hard to accept.
Ms.
Thank you.
Cordero?
I'm sorry, that actually touches exactly on the question that I had. We are, I am understanding this correctly, we are pretty much free to use our discretion, and it's our decision what cutoff score we use to determine when we RFIP our students. Is that correct or not?
I believe that's not completely correct,
Okay.
but I'll defer to Dr. White on that one. I believe that we are supposed to follow the federal guidelines.
So we should be, so theoretically, we should be using the local average then?
Theoretically, we should be using the local average. I have mentioned to Mr. Guarena that I will be attending the state federal directors conference next week. And at that time, I'll talk to the federal people in charge of this and ask, is there wiggle room? In the code, it says redesignate at the local proficiency level, mean proficiency level, or average proficiency level. And so which is why I asked Dr. Hayden to take a look at that. And he's looked at it from a number of different angles. He's looked at it including the CMAs and excluding the CMA students.
So then would we have the option of retaining the 365? Or are we required to go to the 380?
I will answer that one as well. Again, as I mentioned previously in our categorical monitoring 4 years ago, the 365 was in our English Learner Master Plan, which was reviewed by the state and accepted. So we did pass review on our criteria. So there's a little bit of a danger in asking the question, if you will. So it can point us out as having perhaps a discrepancy. So I'm going to be very careful in how I ask my question.
Thank you.
Okay, then one final question. Then regarding the criteria we use, such as not failing classes, is that proscribed, or do we have discretion over those criteria?
Those criteria, that particular criteria actually is in code. It says that the student must be passing their core classes. So yes, that is in code. And also they need to be proficient on the CELT test and have a 4 or a 5 on the California English Language Development Test, the CELT test.
So this brings my core question, which is, given that so much of this is prescribed in statute. What is it that we are determining as the board?
Good question. And I would say at this point, you're being advised that this is a current question in the community. And it's a very good question because if you look across the state, you will find 350 as a redesignation criteria, but the local mean average would be perhaps 350. Some cities reclassify at 300. And so pretty much it differs across the state. So that question, of course, is going to arise. Why is ours so high? And ours is so high because of the community has a mean average of 382, I believe he said.
380 for
380.
both. And I think one of the other things too is that even though there is probably no wiggle room, there still is some wiggle room because if once we do this to a student, it has to stay that way. We're now allowed to change things back and forth. So I don't know whether there's an issue about how far out of compliance we can be. I mean, can we one kid out of compliance, or can we be only, you know, a few kids out of compliance? So there's all sorts of other issues that are here.
I'm going to go back to, we did have a compliance review, and our English Learner Master Plan was approved.
Thank you. Mrs. Parker?
I guess when this comes back to us, one of the things I would like to see is an analysis of where the barrier goes up the highest. Is it compared to other districts across the state where clearly there's a higher reclassification rate? Is it that they can't make that first gate? Is it that they can't make that CST score? Or do a lot of them make the CST score and then get cut off at the DF rate?
I see.
Do we have parents out there that refuse to sign the paperwork? So I'd like to know when it comes back to us where the problems really are. If the biggest thing is the CST score, or if there are other issues, if that DF is as big of an issue.
I can bring that back.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, anything further? Okay, we thank you very much, Dr. Hayden. We'll go to F2, Report on District English Learner Advisory Committee.
Well, we're pleased to have a number of the members of the District English Learner Advisory Committee, Sal Garenia among them, and Robin Sawaski. Well, let's see. Robin
let
Sawaski
Cynthia.
will introduce Cynthia White. How's that?
Yes. Dr. Cynthia White is here. Who works with, Cynthia is the, oversees our Title III and our DLAC, our District English Language Advisory Committee, works very closely with the members, particularly President Salgarenia. And Dr. White will then present this.
Right, we're very pleased tonight to have members of ELACs as well as the president of the DLAC, Sal Guardania, who will speak to you on the annual report of the DLAC. And this is the report from last year. And we will be bringing you information on the members of the new DLAC. We've just compiled that data, and the dates and times for which all of the ELACs are meeting. That will come to you with the single plan presentation on November 9th. So I just wanted to make that announcement as well. So I'm very pleased to present Mr. Salguarenia.
Thank you very much, Dr. White, and thank you, members of the school board, Robin and Brian. I am here as a president of DLAC, and I also would like to recognize some of the parents in our ELAC and also our DLAC training team, our DLAC leadership team. Adriana Isabel Diaz, La Colina. Then we have Jose Vasquez here, from president of ELAC of Dos Pueblos High School. And then Katia Rodriguez Master is one of our DLAC team members from Franklin School. She's a teacher, and we're very proud of her work with DLAC this past year. I'd like to, it's been my privilege to serve as president of DLAC. And DLAC is a voice. It's a voice for parents, and it's also a lens through which the districts can gain valuable insights. And it's a way for parents of English learners to be able to work together with community members to assisted districts and advise on the programs and services for English learners. And so part of that is to comply with federal and state requirements, but it's also, that's just part of the story, and we're charged as DLAC to issue a report every year to the board to give its advice on different topics, in fact, 7 different topics that are indicated at the top of your report in your meeting packet. Admittedly, it's a big charge for any group of parents, but it's worth the time and it's worth the energy that it takes to get busy parents involved, to get them informed and get them engaged. And we know full well that it is a big challenge to our school system to meet the educational needs of our English learners, and that they'll be able to leave their schools equipped and well prepared for a successful life. And so we have seen some real progress during this past year, and any progress is a very welcome thing. And of course, yes, we still have a long ways to go. Now, DLAC has studied the issues and also the data, and we'll comment on a few important areas. And at the end of this report, we also have enumerated some of our recommendations. And this past year, I should say that DLAC continued on its efforts to provide uniform guidance to the parents and to school administrators and to school staff about the role and the functions and the organizations of ELACs, how to get them up and running. And we desire to have functioning ELACs executive committees throughout the schools in our districts. And DLAC has continued to of course, one of our problems is that we've seen that DLAC has seen that we're seeing a continued lack of consistency that continues throughout the districts. With very few exceptions, we've seen little evidence of functional ELAC executive committees that are performing their advisory roles. So that is a challenge, and we're taking a positive approach to help develop tools and a training program for parents. And so we DLAC partnered with United Parents Padres Unidos this past year and utilized a manual that it produced last year to develop a parent training curriculum. It adapted and created a new set of training materials, and we created a new set of PowerPoint presentations in English and Spanish. In Spanish, we dubbed it ELAC Sin Barreras, meaning ELAC without barriers. And the English version is simply titled ELAC 123. We also tested out a set of interactive large group and small group exercises to engage and to actively involve the parents in these trainings. And our plan in DLAC is to provide ELAC parent training to geographic clusters of schools for greater efficiencies. And this past year, DLAC piloted ELAC training workshops in Santa Barbara and Goleta to try out and evaluate the training curriculum. So these attracted parents from 10 different schools, and the evaluations from these pilot sessions improved the training plans, and it informed the development of a funding proposal that Padres Unidos, partnering with the district's DLAC, submitted to a private foundation, and we'll know by May if the project will get funded, and if so, we'll be implementing a series of parent-school partnership workshops, an ELAC parent education program, parent empowerment program, panel programs, and an ELAC compliance in-service for administrators and key staff for school year 2011-2012. And this will include collaboration with Just Community Central Coast. For 2010-11, this school year, the DLAC parent training team has planned a series of beginning and advanced ELAC workshops, and the schedule is presently being negotiated with the school ELACs. The DLAC report in your packets references an attachment. In case you were wondering, where is that attachment? I'm holding it right here. It's the 2010 edition of the ELAC manual, and to save on paper for this meeting, you'll find a PDF of it on the district's website, and it'll be delivered in these orange binders to each of the schools, including a CD with the PowerPoints. The manual is a parent-led project that we updated and revised in both languages, and we added some practical new information on some of the topics. that tend to be a little on the arcane side, but we try to find a way to make it practical for the parents in the ELACs. And we added a topical index owing to a certain very popular principal with blue hair who runs an exceptional school, who will go unnamed, and who had some difficulty finding the ELAC childcare guidelines in the earlier manual, so thus we produced an index for this volume. ELL parent involvement is critical to the success of a school's mission, and the DLAC Executive Committee also took care to review the parent involvement strategies that were identified in Goal 6 in the Title III LEAP Instruction Plan Addendum. DLAC went on record recommending that school site administrators also be assigned responsibility to support the implementation of that goal, and this is something that DLAC felt would support the school board's existing parent involvement policy. Recommendations. There's no other viable option than for us to work together as partners, parents, teachers, school administrators, so that we can raise the proficiencies of English learners. And to this end, we recommend that the school board, the Santa Barbara School District's Board of Education, number one, adopt the 2010 edition of the ELAC manual that we disseminated to each of the schools that should have an ELAC, and use every means to encourage schools to use the manual during this school year. To continue to support the DLAC training program to assist parents and administrators and staff in the use of the manual, and to more actively monitor and encourage the creation and functioning of ELAC executive committees in the schools. The ELAC parent training program should continue collaboration with United Parents Padres Unidos, and when appropriate, other parent training and advocacy groups such as Just Communities Central Coast. The reclassification rates for English learners are too low, and this has been a concern to parents of long-term English learners. The average reclassification rate for the elementary district is 0.3%, and for the secondary district is 2.7%, compared with a statewide average reclassification rate of 10.8%. We do understand, however, that this is connected to local context within the state criteria. However, we do recommend that the districts not only continue to strengthen the instructional support programs for English learners so that more of our children are reclassified, but also to study the redesignation criteria as we were discussing earlier, or that is you were discussing earlier, and compare these with the criteria used by other districts in California. It's essential to have effective parent involvement in schools so that not only the parents receive information from schools, but that conditions are established at each school so that English learner parents are treated as partners with the schools, and that ELACs operate as credible advisory bodies to the schools and their school site councils concerning the needs of the English learners. DLAC commends the school board for its focus goals on student achievement, school culture and safety, and on communication, including the goal to improve communication with Spanish-speaking community, the Spanish-speaking community. All these are very important and will have a positive impact on our English learners. The districts have made commendable progress towards closing the achievement gap involving English learners, and in some schools show double-digit increases. And however, reports also show that in the secondary schools, only 38.5% have scored proficient or better in the ELA, and this is a big concern because this is their last stop before leaving our school system. Recent major statewide study by Californians Tomorrow involving 40 California school districts points to the large number of native-born English learners who have great conversational skills, that is basic interpersonal communication skills, but have major academic deficits and have not yet developed the academic language proficiency that they need to succeed in school and become college ready. That's the cognitive academic language proficiency, CALP, and that's the second language that all of us need to have in order to move forward in school. So we need to be on top of this issue locally. DLAC recommends that data be provided annually on the number of long-term English learners, students who have spent at least 6 or more years as ELs in our districts, and that it be researched as to why the reclassification rate is so low in comparison with other districts in California. Research can be done to better track the progress of long-term English learners, the school involvement of their parents, tracking the nature of the curriculum and pedagogy, and determine what works for them, and also to track the best practices that are working for other school districts addressing long-term English learners. And last but not least, we support all the proposed measures, including those in the updated LEAP, that hold much promise in our districts, measures that can lift the tide for all the students, including underachieving long-term English learners. We're talking about things like data-driven instruction, greater attention to staff development, professional learning communities, explicit vocabulary development, better articulation between grades, instructional focus on academic language development, and raising the expectations for all the students. So then, as a result, we'll be able to say, aquí sí se puede. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great report. Comments from the board? We have public comment?
Do we have public comment on this one at all? Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and start since I'm at the end of the row. Mr. Guereña, once again, many thanks for the incredible professionalism you bring to the DLAC, but also to your DLAC in general. It's just fantastic work that's been going on at the district, and really leadership for the site ELACs. I hope that you get the grant that you've gotten, that you're going for. And, but I like to see what's going to be happening in the meantime, even if the grant doesn't come through, because I think it's so important that every site have a fully functioning ELAC. A lot of the questions that were kind of raised in your recommendations are things that I think after our last agenda item will be coming back to us, because there's some just critical points that we need to discuss. So that reading this item informed what I wanted to know for the previous one, so I kind of blended the two together.
Great.
So thank you, and I look forward to seeing the updated manual online. I'll take a close look at that.
Great, thanks. Also, I'd like to comment that we are working with Cynthia White on a program for training parents this school year, and we're in the process of, as I indicated in my report, negotiating with the schools, the school sites, the specific dates for the trainings for this school year. So we're moving forward this year. We're not going to wait for the grant. It's our job, and we have the energy and we have the desire.
Thank you. Mrs. Deacon?
Thank you as well. I wanted to just start where you ended with the list of all the things that that you think would help, and I'm so thrilled that these are all the things that we've identified as well, because I really feel like we're all pulling together. And where you concluded was, last but not least, high expectations for our students. And I think over and over again we see one of the criteria that really comes out with great teachers is that they have really high expectations for their students, so that everything we're doing seems now to be dovetailing and really coming together for this common goal. So I really appreciate that. I had one question about the percentages of reclassification, the state and versus ours. Were those annual rates, as far as you know?
As far as I know, they're on the CE website using DataQuest.
Okay.
Yes, and they're vary between, you know, you can go up to 20% in some instances, but some, you know, like Riverside and Arcadia, for example, around 10%, if I recall. And then there was others that went, you know, as I indicated, up to 20%, which was really something. But yeah, but we do definitely want to have that on our discussion agenda with Cynthia White as DLAC for this year, to investigate the data, to do some further research, and then be able to inform the school board.
Yeah. And I think Mrs. Parker's recommendation about looking at the barriers internally in our district to reclassification, I think will be really illuminating for us. And then I just wanted to end by saying your focus on parental involvement is so appreciated. I think we all know that's such a critical piece, and Padres Unidos has been doing this for so long now, and it's really wonderful to see it paying off. But I know that you need full support of our administrators to make this work, and so as a board, I feel like we really support that, and look forward to reaping the benefits of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Cordero?
Well, gracias también. Gracias a todos. And I really appreciate the report that you've presented tonight because it's so comprehensive. And one of the things that I have really wanted is for us to get these kinds of reports from our DLAC and have, especially the recommendations. I was wondering a couple of things. One is, one of the concerns that I have is that we get the recommendations from DLAC, but then we often don't give any response back to DLAC. So I would be interested in trying to see if there's some way that we can set up a format whereby either we can meet with you or give some specific feedback, but also to kind of hear from DLAC how you feel we're doing on achieving the recommendations that you have presented with us with, because we have some recommendations from previous years that I think we could still be making some progress towards as well, not only the ones from this year. And then also to kind of piggyback on what my colleagues were saying too, to know if there are things that the board could be doing to assist you in helping the ELACs on the various campuses and the DLAC in general to be more effective. Are there things that you need from us? Is there support that you need from us that would assist you in completing your efforts as well? Because the parental component of this is so important.
Yes.
That would be nice to know if there's ways that we can be of assistance.
Okay, absolutely. And with regards to DLAC board communications, I think really we need to really close whatever communication gaps there are as we head towards closing the achievement gap. But we will have our first organizational meeting later this month. And so that will be, I'll ask that it be put on the agenda so we can do some, come up with some ideas. I wanted to point out that there is one, and I guess there is a source on selected readings on closing the achievement gap that will be part of the Educational Summit final report that will be issued soon. And the title of this report is Reparable Harm, Fulfilling the Unkept Promise of Education Opportunity for California's Long-Term English Learners. And this was a study that I referenced in my remarks. It was a study sponsored by Californians Together. It's not a long report, it's 11 pages long. It's by L. Olson, and it came out this year, this summer. And so I'll just pass this forward up to the dais, and then it has the reference to the URL where you could download it and read it.
We'll put a copy of that in the board brief so that it's available to everyone.
Thank you. And the good thing about it is that it has models. It also indicates models of schools that have succeeded in closing the achievement gap with English learners. So, I mean, it looks at the critical, it's a critical look at the data statewide, but it also captures some of the success stories as well. Okay?
Thank you. Just real quick, that whole idea of expectations for all students, I really mean all students across the board. I'm looking forward to the site plans, because I'm sure that's going to be part of those, plus your number 5 parents. And again, I'm hoping in the site plans. Last year, every school promised that they'd have more family participation, and I'm looking forward to making sure that's taking place, and your help in that will just, multiply the efforts. So we have to get parents involved, period. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Guarena. Okay, we will take a 10-minute break. We'll start back up at 8:30.
A notebook, notepad.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll get the overhead going in a second. We just have a one-page thing. I was asked to be very brief on this topic, and we do have all of our principals and our athletic directors in the room, all of our secondary principals. It's hard to be brief on this topic because
Can't be brief on this topic.
It is so serious and so important. One of the most important aspects of the school and the culture and just our day-to-day life in the school community that we need to address. I think the first thing I want to say is that incidents of bullying and harassment are taken very seriously. The administrators, both elementary and secondary, address any such incidents immediately and thoroughly. The expectation at all schools is that classroom teachers, coaches, and other staff members who work with our students are vigilant and proactive in preventing bullying and harassment. Every single student deserves to come to school feeling safe, included, and secure in his or her school community. The secondary principals met this morning to plan tonight's report. They found out in a discussion that they are very solidly united in their efforts to be proactive in preventing bullying and harassment. And they want to do that in a very systematic way. Some schools have more systematic programs and structures in place than others, and we all started talking about what that looks like and how we can come together and collaborate on improving, in some cases, that systematic approach. They each have many activities and programs. Several of those are consistent across the district, and you have in the report a list of the different activities and plans. You do have an updated revised piece from San Marcos High School. Their original one was really focused more on the athletics, and this has more of the school-wide activities in it. Ongoing monitoring and transparent, well-communicated systems for addressing bullying and harassment are continually being reviewed and evaluated for their effectiveness. And we will be doing that even more often as our collective group, and including the elementary principals. In fact, we even started a plan today as far as addressing that when we meet jointly once a month. We recognize that our systems we have are not perfect. We know that. David Ortiz, who's here tonight, has taken a leadership role in facilitating the secondary principals' monthly PLC meetings. He's doing that this year, and he did the same role last year. He's going to share some of the common elements in all of the plans and a real framework for the 8 secondary schools in preventing and addressing bullying and harassment. So, David, I'm going to let you. We've got it up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Swasky, Dr. Sarvis, and board. I wanted to point out, it says La Colina, but what I did is I took the work that we've done as a secondary principal group. So all 8 of us principals have worked on this, and we endorse this plan. Certainly, it's not the final plan, and that's why we're bringing it to you this evening.